What I'd like to do is just jump straight into the second presentation from Vinay. Vinay Deshpande is a principal engineer and senior fire systems manager at Warringtonfire. He's had over 33 years of building systems engineering experience. 28 of those years have been in the fire protection systems industry. Vinay is now currently with Warringtonfire Consulting ME in their Dubai office, and he's an experienced design engineer with a thorough knowledge of both NFPA and British standards, and can develop fire protection systems designs which are buildable, practical, and cost-effective. Since the last 20 years, he's actively been involved in assisting architectural teams in finalizing fire strategies for various developments and assisting with code compliance and authority approval issues. The vast practical knowledge gained in the fire protection systems industry has helped many projects, particularly super tall towers, in the rationalizing of the systems design to making sure that they're both efficient and effective. Vinay's topic today is fire protection systems perception versus reality. I'm going to hand over to Vinay right now, and hopefully, with any luck, he's there. Philip, have we got Vinay? Here we go.
Thank you very much, Tony. I appreciate it. That was one comprehensive introduction for me. Just let me share my screen. I hope you all can see my screen now.
Yeah, perfect. We can see it, Vinay. Thank you.
So this has been one of the most interesting sessions in this forum this year so far. The fire safety in the built environment for active fire protection system, which is a theme of our discussion today. Every panelist and every co-panelist have mentioned it's such a wide term, basically, that we can't cover every aspect of active fire protection system, perhaps in single session. We would need multiple sessions to do that. But yes, of course, we will be covering many of these interesting topics during the forum every now and then. We all come across various fire protection systems in every walk of our lives, from the places we live to places we work or places we visit frequently. Now, this makes the scope of this discussion, as I said, so wide. The one session will not be enough. I just wanted to tell you one small incident that I came across, and as Tony was just introducing about me and my involvement in designing fire protection systems for super tall buildings. The various reactions I get for that. One classic reaction I got was, I live on 70th floor of the tower, and between me and God, there is only one sprinkler. I was traveling down one elevator once, and the guy next to me saw Warringtonfire on my shirt, and he said, "Oh, wow, you do these fire things, yeah. So tell me, what happens with the sprinklers?" And I started talking to him, and he just told me, I had a small kitchen fire in my house. Sprinkler did its job, but we didn't know how to close it down now. So my belongings were safe or saved from the fire, but they were damaged by the water. So this is what we are going to discuss today, the perception of fire protection versus reality that we face in the world. Particularly sprinklers, they are sitting everywhere we go and working silently. We have been talking today about fire alarm systems and unwanted alarms. The technology, particularly in electronics and telecommunication, has advanced so much that the systems have become smarter and smarter. Yet we still have to depend on the basic methods of fire protection, that is water. It's the most common and popular fire protection agent. Now, as I said, let us focus on the subject of a core sector that is becoming vital importance of late. Although hydrocarbon-based energy exports still play an important role in the economy of the region, it is becoming less dependent on the natural resources. A massive construction boom in the recent past, an expanding manufacturing base, and a thriving logistics sector are helping the region diversify its economies. As the business hub of the Middle East region, the UAE has developed many free economic zones with medium to large logistics centers and warehousing operations, establishing to support the growing trading and industrial operations. And this model of free economic zones is now being emulated across the region and perhaps most of the countries in the world. Now, in the past few years, it has also witnessed significant incident of fires. Now, due to nature, quantity, and arrangement of inventory in these warehouses, intense fires can develop. Developing and implementing a comprehensive fire protection plan is essential to minimize the potential for significant fire loss or a disruption of operation. From an owner's perspective, the owner thinks that my warehouse has just passed a fire inspection, therefore it must be up to the code. Or he might say my warehouse is up to code and therefore it is safe. Now, somebody can say my warehouse is designed with a sprinkler system, so there can't be anything that can burn down. So these are like the perceptions of the owners. If I compare that with the scenario of a traffic, now just because if I'm obeying the traffic laws, it doesn't mean that I will not get into the accident. The same is true for fire codes. They are designed to reduce the opportunities for fire to start, or reduce the opportunities for fires to spread, or provide for evacuation of occupants or access to firefighters to extinguish that fire. Warehouse poses one of the greatest challenges to the fire control for both automatic fire suppression as well as manual firefighting efforts. Manual firefighting cannot take place of the properly designed or installed functioning sprinkler system in a warehouse. If the warehouse is not designed for the commodities stored and the configuration in which they are arranged, the system will struggle to control the fire. However, the level of safety will be greatly impacted by the procedures, that is, pre-incident planning, and providing employee training with respect to evacuation plans or operation of fire extinguishers, control of waste, designated areas for storage, or staging areas for that matter. As I said, due to nature or quantity and arrangement of inventory in a warehouse, intense fires can develop rapidly. And developing this and implementing the comprehensive fire protection plan is essential to minimize the potential for significant fire loss. These days, we try to make use of every inch of a space within a warehouse. The modern storage practices adopted in the warehouse aim to maximize the storage efficiency by piling products high and leaving very minimal aisle space between storage piles or the racks. As a result, enormous volumes of combustible materials are now located in a single fire area or a zone. In addition to this, warehouses contain large amount of plastic these days, both in the way the products are stored or, for that matter, as a packing material. Now, we all know most of these plastics, they burn rapidly. They have very high rate of heat release and generate prolific amounts of smoke, soot, or toxins. It's an unfortunate fact that many of these factors that have enhanced the efficiency of the storage facility have also increased the fire risk presented by its contents. The more efficiently storage volume is used, the more combustible materials are there to burn now. So to effectively prepare a fire protection plan for such storage occupancies, we recommend carrying out this following fire protection plan steps, basically to determine the commodity classification, identify building configurations, identify storage arrangements or establish the storage heights and clearance from top of storage to the sprinkler. So commodity classifications, if we see, and if we go by the various design codes, they are generally grouped based on the kind of contents they have. I have given some examples here for the different commodity classifications. But the important part is we have warehouses which are generally classified as two types. One where the owners have developed warehouses for the purpose of leasing them. They have no control or they do not know at the time of design who will be occupying those warehouses and what they will be storing. The other category is the owners who have developed warehouses for their own storage of their own goods and commodities. They have a bit of a control. They know what they are going to store. They know the hazards that their contents produce. And it is possible for them to then take into aspect various commodity classifications and design fire protection systems based around that. But the worst thing is the ones that are going to be leased out. The UAE Fire Code particularly has addressed these issues. They have considered multi-tenant warehouses in the latest codes that they have developed. But if we do not design the system for the most onerous part of that, I mean, we would see in this slide I have highlighted, it is quite common for us to have commodities which eventually uses some form of plastic, and plastics is the most onerous commodity classification to have protection for. Now, equally, the storage arrangement is also equally important for us, like whether we are going to have a solid pile of storage or we will have a palletized storage, because effective delivery of water through those fire protection system to these particular areas where fire may start also depend on the way we have stored these commodities or materials within the warehouse. We do have like racking storage nowadays, which is like single row rack or a double row rack. Again, these racks go so high these days that we are almost, as I said, we are using almost every volumetric inch of this space. They go so near to the ceiling and to this near the sprinklers that they sometimes hardly have any space between the sprinkler and the commodity that we are storing. So in that sense, establishing the storage height and clearance from top of the storage sprinkler must be defined when we are developing the fire protection plan. It is a good practice on part of owners to gain acceptance of all stakeholders, including insurers, prior to commencing the construction, apart from, of course, the authority having jurisdiction, the local fire department. Now, having considered all this, the most important aspect of all this is basically providing the water requirement. And water requirement remains the adequate duration of water supply and maintaining good storage practice should not compromise the installed fire protection system. There are different ways that are provided for a designer to consider They are commonly called a CMDA or CMSA or a ESFR type of sprinkler protection. CMDA is a controlled mode density per area approach, or a controlled mode specific application approach, or the ESFR type of sprinklers that we use. If you see the basic difference between them that I have highlighted, you will realize the water demand for the sprinklers based on the type of design that we adopt is basically changing. And you will realize that ESFR type of protection requires the maximum amount of water, but then that maximum amount of water is required only for a small duration. So duration of water supply and the volume of water supply are the two directly related variables that defines basically all the factors. However, the most important fact that remains is the provision of this adequate water supply, basically. As I was saying, that these are the perceptions of designing the fire protection system, but what do we get in reality? I've given some examples here. These are the ways we are actually storing goods and within the warehouse. If you see on the bottom left picture, the staging area contains so much amount of commodities and combustibles which are not protected at all. And if the fire is initiated or if the fire begins from here with unprotected area, obviously the fire protection system inside the warehouse will be potentially overwhelmed. The reality, if you see in the bottom right picture, we very often we have this what we call the tow trucks for moving the goods within the warehouse, and the battery charging facilities for these forklifts basically are just kept adjacent to the goods that are stored, which in itself is a very hazardous way of storing and operating the warehouse. I mean, very often the fire originates from these battery charging areas, basically. The way we store the goods up to the top of the ceiling without any gaps between this top of the storage and the sprinkler, hardly allowing our sprinklers basically to perform the jobs. The way idle pallets are stored within the same area where we are storing our goods is increasing enormous amount of fire load. Idle pallets, particularly wooden, they burn rapidly and they require high amount of water. And if we have not designed that water duration, potentially our fire protection system will be overwhelmed and will not be able to perform the job. If you see the picture on the bottom right, we might think that this is a picture for accessing the water tank. But what if I tell you this is not the access to the water tank, but access to the fire pump room itself? These are the ways we are basically providing water access to fire water pumps. We have very often the valves fitted on these fire pumps, they are not supervised. So if somebody leaves that valve closed accidentally during the maintenance, although the system, I mean the sprinkler might get activated, but we won't get any water because this valve is now closed. And there is no mechanism that we know that this valve was closed. We might have often seen this top right extinguisher that is mounted on the ceiling, particularly in this part of the world. The sprinkler mounted so-called automatic extinguishers. These are not addressed or identified by any codes or any standards, or they are not tested for using as a kind of automatic fire protection system. But very often we think that I have provided this, and because I have provided this extinguisher which will activate automatically, all the contents sitting under it are now protected. But we do not have any validation of this. The way we are installing this water supply systems and not maintaining it makes it unreliable at many point of time, basically. So these are the realities of these storage arrangements against the perception that we have. Now, in light of all these, warehouse managers and operators need to have a sound knowledge and understanding of the limitations of their installed fire protection system. They must go beyond compliance and not just think that, yeah, I achieved my fire certification and that's why my warehouse is safe. They must have proper evacuation plans, training their employees and making them understand the importance of these fire protection systems which are acting silently would help them actually get better out of their fire protection systems installed. I hope this session has added some value to you. Thank you.